Despite the fact that we are in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression, had you invested $100 in the S&P 500 at the beginning of this year, you'd actually have made some money. In fact, the S&P 500 is now within striking distance of its all-time high. Nearly 30 years ago, when I started in this business, I'd have said this was good news because back then, markets served as a better barometer for the larger economy than they do today. According to Gallup, 45% of Americans surveyed in 2020 say they don't own stock. And more than that, when you take a closer look at how ownership of stock is distributed amongst those who do own, you'll find that more than 80% of all stock held by individuals are held by the country's wealthiest 10%. But that's just the math. The bigger problem is the way policies in this country are rigged in favor of the wealthy. America, like the world, is confronting the greatest economic calamity since the Great Depression. Middle to low-income Americans are feeling the walls closing in, and yet somehow the rich have found a way to keep getting richer. Let me lay it out for you. Stocks are high for two reasons, and both have to do with the Federal Reserve. At the beginning of this crisis, the Fed made it easier and cheaper to borrow money for businesses to stay afloat, while demand evaporated. In doing so, and by slashing interest rates, they made saving unattractive, and investing in stocks became the only game in town. The collapse of interest rates has also made buying real estate for those who have money and a down payment and good credit the best deal that it's been in over a decade. Money begets money. It's the American way. It's the way it was during the Depression and the Great Recession, and in every recession in between. When the going gets rough, the rich get richer. Right now, the U.S. unemployment rate stands at a staggering 10.2%. And we just had our 20th straight week of at least 1 million new Americans filing for unemployment. A brand new study by the Aspen Institute projects 30 to 40 million people in America are at risk of eviction in the next several months. Roughly 568,000 Americans sleeping on the street every night, according to HUD numbers from 2019, before the pandemic. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says that as of 2 years ago, way before the pandemic, 11.1% of American households were considered food insecure. And to top all of it off, at this very moment, talks between the White House and congressional Democrats about coronavirus relief are at a standstill. Trump is toying with the idea of signing an executive order to go over their heads. All the while, he's trying to gut the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, as the country surges past 161,000 coronavirus deaths. But hey, look on the bright side. We do have near record high stock markets. For the majority of Americans, their economic prospects are in shambles. Stock market records do not pay the rent or put food on the table. This is the capitalism we know and that so many hate. Now, despite the names that some people call me on Twitter, I am a capitalist, and I do not believe it needs to be this way. Americans have been made to fear policies that redistribute wealth, but no system has redistributed wealth from the poor to the rich as effectively as our own, because the poor work for low wages and the rich profit from those low wages. It's how slavery worked, but since we don't have slavery, we just work really hard to pay people as little as we absolutely can to do their work. And if the poor can't work for wages that are low enough to make cheap stuff, they simply lose their jobs. And that work goes to countries where there are yet poorer people who can work for even less. And then those working Americans lose their jobs, and then they lose their health care, and then they lose their homes, and the rich buy those homes at discount prices using money borrowed from banks at near zero interest rates. This actually is the American way, but it does not have to be.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.